When we do a mitzvah, we are enwrapped in God's love. So imagine yourself in God's embrace when you're sitting inside of a sukkah. Hey everybody, welcome to my sukkah. Sukkot begins tomorrow night, so there's still a lot of work to do in here. My kids are still going to bring in their arts and crafts. We're going to decorate the place really nicely, set the table stunningly, but we're getting there. Right now, these walls are just tarps. But tomorrow night, there's a holiness that is going to descend. And the physical is going to be elevated to the divine. And it will be a mitzvah just to sit inside of here. We will be fulfilling a biblical commandment. It's an amazing thing. These walls, sitting inside of a sukkah, it actually reminds us of the clouds of glory, the arid. You see, when the Jewish people were traveling in the desert, we were surrounded on all sides by the clouds of glory. Underneath us, on top of us, in front of us, all around us. And it created this temperature-controlled environment. We were protected from the elements. The heat, the rain, the sun, they didn't affect us. The verses tell us that their clothing didn't wear out. Their shoes didn't wear out. The clouds of glory actually maintained everything. Not only did we have dry cleaning that maintained the clothing in pristine condition, but the fact was we were just like kind of floating along on these clouds. It was like sitting on a cruise ship. So our shoes were not wearing out as we traveled along. Now, moreover, these clouds actually went in front of us and they destroyed all the dangerous elements in our path. And they actually provided us protection from people who would try to harm us. You see, when the Egyptians were shooting arrows at us, the clouds would just absorb it. Now, because the clouds actually created a barrier between us and other people, that actually created kind of a problem when Yisro wanted to come and he wanted to greet his son-in-law Moses. He wanted to come and serve the God of Israel. So Yisro actually took an arrow and he wrote a letter around it and he shot it inside the clouds of glory. And his arrow was actually allowed through and it didn't hurt anybody, but it was the only one. Anything that came to harm, it was completely deflected. But his arrow was allowed inside because he came with pure intentions. And he was able to get his message through, come inside, and become a part of the Jewish people. The truth is, however, that there was actually a group of people who were outside of the clouds of glory. That was the tribe of Dan, because there was one person, Micha, who actually had an idolatrous object with him. And because of that, the entire tribe was excluded from the clouds of glory, and they actually became susceptible to the attack of Amalek. So when we read in the Torah about the strugglers at our rear, it refers to the tribe of Dan, who had this one person who had this idolatrous item. Here's another fun fact about the arid. In front of us there traveled a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. And this actually let us know what time of day it was because we couldn't see the sun. We had the cloud cover on top of us. But what we could see was we could see the change in color. So during the day, the clouds were luminescent. And by night, they took on like a fiery glow to them. And this actually came very much in handy because we were able to see the exact moment that night and day switched. Now today what's really interesting is that we are living in a time in which we don't know the precise moment that night and day switch, that exact second. So we do something called Shabas. We add to Shabas because we don't want to transgress. We don't want to do work at a time that we're not allowed to. So we add a few minutes before Shabas and a few minutes after Shabas just to be safe. But in the desert, they didn't have to do this because they literally saw this change in colors at the moment that night became day and day became night. Those are just a few fun facts about Sukkot. When you're sitting inside of a sukkah, you have to realize that this is one of the mitzvahs that you can do with your entire body. And when we do a mitzvah, we are enwrapped in God's love. So imagine yourself in God's embrace when you're sitting inside of a sukkah. It's a beautiful holiday. And if you're obligated to keep it, enjoy every single second of it. This is a time to be b'simcha, to be happy. You are doing something so good, so holy, so pure, and you're coming close to God just by existing, by sitting inside of this holy place. Have a wonderful Yom Tov, everybody.